Do you believe in shadows? Not the ones cast by the sun, but the kind that cling to a person, alive, breathing, and hungry. That's how Georgia's story begins, and if you stay with me, you'll see why her shadow might just follow you too. April 11, 1999. Georgia was born in a small hospital outside Manila. Nothing extraordinary, just a healthy baby girl crying and kicking like any other newborn. But sometimes the scariest things in life don't begin with thunder or lightning. They begin quietly. Growing up, Georgia was bright, cheerful, quick to laugh, always running around the house. On the surface, she was the kind of kid every parent prays for. But when I flipped through her baby photos, I noticed something odd. In every single picture, there was a smudge, a dark smear, sometimes near her shoulder, sometimes by her feet. At first, I thought it was dust on the camera lens, but as the years went by, the smear didn't change. It grew darker, sharper. It looked less like a mistake and more like something. I tried to ignore it until one afternoon when Georgia was about 5. She was standing in the corner of the living room, whispering. "Who are you talking to, honey?" I asked. She smiled. "I'm talking to my friend." I looked around. The room was empty. "Your friend?" "My twin," she answered matter-of-factly. "She says she's always with me." Her words chilled me more than they should have. Georgia was an only child. She didn't have a twin. Do you believe in shadows? Not the ones cast by the sun, but the kind that cling to a person, alive, breathing, and hungry. That's how Georgia's story begins, and if you stay with me, you'll see why her shadow might just follow you too. April 11, 1999. Georgia was born in a small hospital outside Manila. Nothing extraordinary, just a healthy baby girl crying and kicking like any other newborn. But sometimes the scariest things in life don't begin with thunder or lightning. They begin quietly. Growing up, Georgia was bright, cheerful, quick to laugh, always running around the house. On the surface, she was the kind of kid every parent prays for. But when I flipped through her baby photos, I noticed something odd. In every single picture, there was a smudge, a dark smear, sometimes near her shoulder, sometimes by her feet. At first, I thought it was dust on the camera lens, but as the years went by, the smear didn't change. It grew darker, sharper. It looked less like a mistake and more like something. I tried to ignore it until one afternoon when Georgia was about 5. She was standing in the corner of the living room, whispering. "Who are you talking to, honey?" I asked. She smiled. "I'm talking to my friend." I looked around. The room was empty. "Your friend?" "My twin," she answered matter-of-factly. "She says she's always with me." Her words chilled me more than they should have. Georgia was an only child. She didn't have a twin. For a while, I let myself believe Georgia had outgrown it. High school brought back her spark. She made friends, joined a dance club, even brought home medals. From the outside, she looked like any other teenager. But shadows don't disappear. They only learn to hide better. Every photo we took, no matter the occasion, still carried the same dark smear. Birthdays, Christmas, even her prom picture, it was always there. Not faded, not distorted, not changing with angles, always the same shape. A stain that clung to her. I told myself, maybe it's the old camera, so I bought a new one. The first photo with the brand new lens, the shadow was there again. This time clearer, longer. One evening, Georgia walked into the kitchen and sat across from me. "She's back," she said. "Who?" "The woman." Her eyes didn't blink. She told me again, "You'll wear white and you won't be able to leave." I froze, the fork slipping from my hand. "What woman, Georgia?" She tilted her head, smiling faintly. "The one with the long hair. She said she likes you." A shiver raced down my spine. There was no one in the room but us. Still, I felt watched. I decided enough was enough. "We're going to the doctor," I told her one morning. "We need to talk to someone." "No!" she shouted, louder than I'd ever heard her. "She doesn't want me to go. She said if I do, she'll follow you instead." Her voice cracked, but her eyes were steady, defiant, like the words weren't entirely hers. I backed down, but something inside me twisted. That night, I woke to a noise, whispering from Georgia's room. I opened her door just a crack. She was sitting on the floor, back to me, humming the same lullaby she had once sung as a child. And behind her, in the reflection of the window pane, I saw it, clearer than ever. A woman, long black hair, pale face stretched into a smile too wide for her skin, eyes glittering like shards of glass. I gasped. The figure snapped its head toward me in the reflection, and then it was gone. The next morning, Georgia came to me as if nothing had happened. She was cheerful, even playful. I wanted to believe last night was just a dream. But when I hugged her, something strange happened. For just a split second, the arms around me didn't feel like hers. They were longer, thinner, tighter. And when I pulled back, I didn't see Georgia's face. I saw hers, the woman's, grinning. I stumbled back in terror, my heart pounding. Georgia tilted her head. "What's wrong?" she asked sweetly, as if she didn't know. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because for the first time, I knew I wasn't just fighting a child's imagination or an odd coincidence in photographs. Something was inside my daughter, something that had been waiting since the day she was born, and it wasn't going to leave. By the time Georgia turned 20, she was living in Makati. She had landed a decent job in an office downtown. At first, I was proud. Watching her dress for work every morning felt like a promise that life might turn out normal after all. But deep down, I knew better. The photographs hadn't changed. The shadow never left her side. It had followed her from childhood into adulthood, sharper now, like a figure trying to step fully into frame. Her job often kept her late. 11 at night, the office would be empty except for Georgia, her computer screen glowing in a sea of darkness. She told me once that she hated those nights. "The silence is too heavy," she admitted, "like someone's breathing in the corners." I brushed it off as nerves, but I remembered the way her voice shook. One night, it happened. Georgia was typing when she felt it, the faintest brush against her right arm. Cold, too deliberate to be the breeze from the aircon. She spun around, startled. The janitor stood a few feet away, holding a mop. "Ma'am, aren't you going home yet?" he asked. Georgia exhaled, forcing a smile. "You surprised me, sir. I'm almost done. I'll leave the key with the guard." The janitor nodded, returned to his work. Georgia tried to calm her racing heart. But minutes later, as she packed up her bag, the same cold hand gripped her arm again, tighter this time. She turned instantly. No one. Her chest tightened, breath shallow. She slammed her laptop shut and rushed out, heels clicking frantically on the floor. She shoved the key into the guard's hand and pressed the elevator button. The guard tried to make small talk, but then his words froze in his throat. Georgia, distracted and fumbling with her bag, didn't notice. But the guard did. Standing right beside her was a woman. Long, dripping black hair, eyes like cracked glass, lips stretched into a smile too wide, teeth glinting in the fluorescent light. The guard's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His face drained of color as the elevator doors closed. Inside, Georgia glanced at her reflection in the elevator mirror. She was alone. Or so she thought. The elevator stopped on the 4th floor. The doors slid open to pitch black. "Hello?" she whispered. Silence. And then the squeak of wheels. Slow. Dragging. A wheelchair rolled inside on its own, as if pushed by invisible hands. Its rusted frame groaned as it came to a stop in the corner. The doors closed again, trapping her. The fluorescent light flickered, stuttering like a dying heartbeat. In the reflection, Georgia saw her. The woman, sitting in the wheelchair, head tilted, smile splitting her pale face. As the elevator shuddered, the woman leaned forward, whispering with a voice like broken glass, "You and I are one now." When the elevator reached the ground floor, Georgia walked out stiffly, too calm, too quiet. Her lips curved into a smile that wasn't hers. From that night on, she was different. When Georgia came home that night, I knew something was wrong. She walked through the door like a stranger. Her steps were heavy, mechanical, as if her body was moving without her will. She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. She just stood in the doorway, smiling. Not the bright, clumsy grin I knew. This was different. Sharp, frozen, too wide. The kind of smile that feels like it belongs on a mask, not a face. "Georgia?" I whispered. She tilted her head, eyes glinting in the dim light, and then walked past me without a word. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed listening. Past midnight, I heard humming from her room, the same eerie lullaby she'd sung as a child. The next morning, I tried to pretend things were normal. I cooked breakfast, poured coffee, waited for her to shuffle in like she always did. But when she appeared, she wasn't shuffling. She was gliding, her movements too smooth, too careful. She sat across from me and stared. No words, no laughter, just that smile. Finally, she spoke. "Why are you looking at me like that?" My spoon clattered against the bowl. Her voice, it wasn't quite hers. It was deeper, distorted, like another throat was speaking beneath her own. I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a shaky laugh. "I'm just tired." Georgia leaned closer. Her breath smelled like rust. She said, "You're next." That was the moment I realized I couldn't handle this alone. I went to the police first. They listened politely, then exchanged glances when I told them my daughter wasn't my daughter anymore. One officer cleared his throat and said, "Maybe you need rest, ma'am." Friends stopped answering my calls. Family told me to stop exaggerating. No one wanted to hear it. Finally, I begged Georgia to see a doctor. "Please, sweetheart, just talk to someone. Let them help." Her smile widened, splitting her face almost painfully. "No doctor can help me. She lives here now," she topped her chest. My hands trembled. "Georgia, please." She slammed her fist onto the table. The lights flickered. The glass of water rattled, tipping over without being touched. Then she whispered, calm again, "If you push me, she'll take you instead." I stopped trying, for a while, but I couldn't ignore it forever. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. I woke to find Georgia standing at the foot of my bed, watching me. Her head tilted, her grin carved across her face. I shot up, gasping, "Georgia, what are you doing?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, "She says you'll wear white soon." Something inside me cracked. I tried calling for help again, louder this time, to anyone who would listen. But the more I begged, the more people whispered behind my back. And then Georgia herself reported me, told them I was unstable, paranoid, dangerous to myself. The next day, men in white coats came. I screamed, fought, tried to explain, but to everyone else, I was the crazy one. And Georgia? She just stood there, smiling, watching me dragged away. They locked me in the ward 3 days ago. White walls, white clothes, white sheets. The same white she always spoke of. I told the doctors I wasn't sick. I begged them to check my daughter, to look into her eyes, to see that something was living behind them. They nodded, scribbled notes, and tightened the straps around my wrists. At night, I hear George's voice in the vents, calling my name, laughing, sometimes whispering words in a language I don't understand. I press my hands over my ears until they ache, but the sound seeps through my skull. On the 4th night, she came. Not in a dream, not in a vision. She walked right into my room. The staff swore the doors were locked, but there she was, Georgia, standing at the foot of my bed, her smile stretched so wide it tore the corners of her mouth. She leaned down, close enough that I could see the black veins crawling under her skin. "You should have let her in," she hissed. "Now you belong to me." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her hands pressed against my chest, cold and heavy, like stones sinking into water. My heart stuttered. For a moment, I thought she was pulling it out. Then she stopped. Her grin softened into something worse, tender, mocking. She whispered, "I don't need you anymore. You were only the doorway." The next morning, the doctors told me Georgia was doing fine, thriving even. She'd visited them, calm and polite, bringing documents to have me committed longer. "She seems perfectly normal," one of them said. "It's you we're worried about." Perfectly normal. But I know the truth. That thing inside her, my Georgia's twin, has taken full control. The girl I raised, the child who laughed too loud, who cried when she lost her toy rabbit, who used to fall asleep with her head on my lap, she's gone. What walks around in her skin isn't my daughter anymore. Tonight, I write this with shaking hands. The lights keep flickering. I can feel her outside my door. She doesn't need to visit me again. I already know what she wants. And so should you. If you see Georgia or anyone who smiles too wide, who hums lullabies at night, who whispers about wearing white, do not look into their eyes. Do not answer when they call your name, because once you let them in, they will never leave. And one day, someone you love will stand at the foot of your bed, smiling a smile that doesn't belong to them. She is no longer Georgia.